Have you ever woken up in the morning, looked around your quiet home, and felt a deep stillness that's hard to describe? It's not sadness exactly. Maybe not even loneliness. Just silence. A kind of silence that settles into your daily routine when you start living alone after many years of being surrounded by people, kids, partners, friends, co-workers. That silence can be peaceful, but on some days, it might feel like a heavy weight. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Living by yourself after 65 is more common than ever. For some, it's a new chapter filled with freedom. For others, it can bring unexpected feelings, maybe a sense of isolation, boredom, or even fear of becoming invisible. But here's the truth, being alone doesn't have to mean being unhappy. In fact, this stage of life can be one of the most fulfilling if we approach it with intention, a little creativity, and a lot of heart. In today's video, we're going to talk about 5 simple, practical ways you can stay genuinely happy and emotionally strong, even when you're living on your own. These aren't complicated life overhauls. They're just small shifts that can help you wake up each day with purpose, peace, and maybe even a smile that comes from the inside out. Let's start with something simple, but powerful, reconnecting with your own rhythm. When we live with others, our days often revolve around them, cooking at a certain time, going to bed at the same hour, planning weekends around someone else's schedule. But once the house is quiet, you finally get to ask yourself, what do I actually enjoy? Maybe you feel most alive early in the morning when the sun peeks through the curtains, or maybe you're a night owl who loves sipping tea and watching old movies past midnight. The beauty of living alone is that your time belongs to you again. So why not reclaim it? Try structuring your days around what makes you feel good, not what you're supposed to do, but what feels right to you. If you love gardening, spend a little time with your hands in the dirt each morning. If reading gives you joy, create a cozy corner just for that. If music lifts your mood, start the day with your favorite songs instead of the news. Creating a rhythm that honors your natural energy is one of the most grounding things you can do. It turns your home from just a space into a sanctuary. Of course, a big part of staying happy while living alone is staying connected, not just to people, but to purpose. That brings us to the next important piece, finding meaningful connection. It's easy to think that connection only happens when people come to visit or when the phone rings. But real connection can be created, not just received. You have more power here than you might think. Start with simple outreach. Call someone, not because they called you, but just because you were thinking of them. Join a local group or club where people share a hobby you enjoy. It could be a walking group, a book circle, or even an online community if going out isn't always easy. One lovely woman I know started hosting a weekly tea chat on her porch. At first, only one neighbor showed up. Now, it's a small circle of women who gather every Sunday, laughing, sharing, sometimes just sitting in silence together. That little habit became a lifeline. But connection doesn't always have to be social. It can also be about connecting with something bigger, a sense of meaning. Volunteering, mentoring, or simply helping someone who needs a hand can fill your days with a purpose deeper than just passing time. One gentleman I met at a senior center began tutoring kids in math over Zoom. He said it gave him a reason to shave and get dressed each morning. It sounds small, but those things add up. When you give something of yourself, you often receive far more in return, and not just in gratitude, but in the sense that you matter. And you do. Now, as we move through this conversation, I want you to remember one thing. Happiness doesn't always look like a big, joyful moment. Sometimes, it's quiet. Sometimes, it's just feeling content with a warm meal, a sunny window, or a good memory. The key is not waiting for someone else to bring it to you. You can build it. Every single day. That brings me to another important shift that makes a big difference, especially when you're living alone, creating a space that truly nurtures you. I'm not talking about fancy furniture or expensive renovations. I mean the kind of space that makes you feel good when you walk into it. Look around your home. Do the rooms reflect who you are now, or who you used to be when you were raising a family or working full-time? Maybe it's time to gently let go of things that no longer serve you, old furniture that's just taking up space, clutter that stresses you out, or even photos that bring more pain than comfort. Replace them with things that bring joy, peace, or even just a smile. A soft blanket in your favorite color. A lamp that casts a cozy glow. A spot by the window where you can sit with your morning coffee and feel the breeze. Your surroundings affect your state of mind more than you might realize. A clean, calm, and welcoming space tells your brain, you're safe here. You're home. You're cared for, even if that care comes from you. And that's a beautiful kind of strength. So now that you've started to shape your time around what truly suits you, and begun building those small, meaningful connections either with others or with a deeper purpose, it becomes easier to notice that happiness isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we grow, piece by piece, through how we live each day. But there's another piece of this puzzle that often goes overlooked: movement. And no, I don't mean intense exercise or long gym sessions, unless that's your thing, of course. I'm talking about simple, joyful movement. The kind that keeps your body alive and your spirit lifted. When you live alone, it's easy to become more sedentary without even realizing it. The days blend together, and suddenly you find yourself sitting more than standing, watching more than doing. But movement is essential, not just for physical health, but for mood, confidence, and even memory. Start small. Take a walk around the block in the morning sun. Turn on music and dance a little while you're doing the dishes. Stretch your arms while waiting for the kettle to boil. It doesn't have to be structured or impressive, it just has to happen. Moving your body reminds you that you are alive. It wakes up your mind, improves your sleep, and boosts your mood in ways that even the best medicine can't replicate. One gentleman I spoke to started taking a short walk every afternoon to the nearby park. At first, it was just about getting fresh air. But over time, he began noticing things: flowers blooming, birds returning to the trees, a neighbor he waved to regularly. That walk became a ritual that not only moved his legs, but opened his heart to the little joys of daily life. Joy lives in motion. And when you pair that movement with something else that's just as vital, curiosity, well, now we're really creating the ingredients for a fulfilling life, even in solitude. Curiosity is like fuel for the soul. It gives you a reason to get out of bed, to explore, to keep learning. And the beautiful part? You don't need anyone else to cultivate it. Ask yourself, what have I always wanted to learn but never had time for? Maybe it's painting, or baking a certain kind of bread, or understanding the stars. Maybe it's learning how to use a smartphone better, or watching documentaries about ancient history. Or perhaps it's as simple as tending a new kind of plant and seeing if you can keep it alive and thriving. Every new thing you try adds another layer to your life story. It reminds you that you're not done yet. You're still growing. Still becoming. I once met a woman in her 70s who took up learning Italian. Not because she was planning a trip, but because she said she liked the sound of it and wanted to understand the lyrics of her favorite opera songs. She practiced every day for 15 minutes. Over time, she could sing along. That little ritual brought her joy, and it made her feel connected, not just to the music, but to herself. She said it was the first time in a long time that she felt proud of something she was doing just for her. And here's something else that often surprises people: even when you live alone, laughter is still one of the most healing, powerful tools you have. Laughter changes your chemistry. It lifts stress, soothes the nervous system, and reminds you that joy doesn't need a reason. It can just be. Watch a silly show. Read a funny book. Talk to someone who always makes you giggle. Even better? Laugh at yourself. Not in a harsh or critical way, but with kindness. Life is messy, strange, and often unexpected. And if you can meet it with a sense of humor, you'll find that the hard moments feel a little lighter. There was a woman I once visited who lived alone in a small cottage. She had a whole section of her bookshelf labeled books that make me laugh out loud. She said, "Sometimes the only voice I hear all day is mine, so I'd rather it be laughing than sighing." I loved that. Because it's not about pretending life is perfect. It's about choosing joy, even when the world is quiet around you. All these little things, movement, curiosity, laughter, they add up. They aren't just habits. They're lifelines. They remind you that being alone doesn't mean being forgotten, and it certainly doesn't mean your best days are behind you. And as we keep going, I want you to hold on to this thought: your happiness is not a luxury. It's not a bonus. It's your right. And it's something you can claim at any time, even in the stillness of your own space. There's something truly special about realizing that joy doesn't have to come from grand moments or crowds of people. Often, it lives in the quiet spaces. The kind you find when you're sitting on the porch in the early evening, sipping tea, feeling the breeze. Or when you wake up in the morning with nowhere to rush to, and you can take your time easing into the day. Living alone after 65 can offer those kinds of moments, but only if you know how to make space for them. And that brings us to something that's often overlooked but deeply powerful: creating a sense of rhythm and ritual in your days. When you live alone, time can start to feel a little shapeless. Without regular plans or people around, the hours might blend together. That can make you feel a bit adrift. But with simple daily rituals, small, personal routines that you enjoy, you create a kind of anchor for yourself. Something you can look forward to. Something that makes each day feel different from the one before. It could be something as easy as making a beautiful breakfast each morning. Not rushed, not thrown together, but made with intention. Maybe you light a candle while you eat. Or maybe every evening, you end the day with a favorite piece of music, or write a few lines in a journal about what made you smile that day. These rituals don't have to be fancy. They just have to be yours. They add rhythm to your life, and rhythm brings comfort. It helps you feel grounded and more in control, even when you're on your own. A friend of mine, recently retired and living alone, started making Sunday evenings her movie and soup night. She'd make a new soup recipe and watch an old classic film, just for herself. She said it gave her week a soft landing, something cozy to look forward to, and a feeling that life was still full of little celebrations. That's the magic of a good ritual. It transforms the ordinary into something special. And speaking of special, let's not forget the deep, lasting joy that comes from giving. Yes, even when you live alone, you still have so much to offer. In fact, one of the surest ways to feel happier is to make a positive impact, even in a small way. Acts of kindness don't need an audience. They don't even need to be noticed. But they matter. They remind you that you're still connected to the world. You could call an old friend just to ask how they're doing. You could write a letter, a real, handwritten letter, to someone who might need encouragement. You might offer to water a neighbor's plants while they're away, or help someone carry groceries. These little moments of giving add meaning to your day, and they shift the focus away from what's missing to what's possible. And here's the beautiful truth: when you brighten someone else's day, you end up brightening your own too. One older man I knew lived alone and didn't get out much, but he found joy in baking. Every Saturday, he'd bake cookies or bread and leave a small batch on his neighbors' doorsteps with a kind note. Over time, people started knocking on his door just to say thank you or chat for a moment. Without even realizing it, he had created a circle of connection, just by sharing what he loved. Giving doesn't always mean doing. Sometimes it means sharing your presence. Being someone who listens, who smiles, who still sees the good in the world, even when things feel a little quiet. And that leads to perhaps the most important part of all: choosing how you see your life. Your mindset, the way you talk to yourself, the way you frame your day, has a powerful effect on your happiness. When you live alone, your thoughts become your closest companion. So it's worth asking, are those thoughts kind? Are they encouraging? Are they helping you feel hopeful and at peace? It's easy to slip into patterns of thinking that focus on what's been lost, friends who've moved away, loved ones who've passed, routines that no longer exist. And it's okay to grieve those things. It's normal. But it's also possible to gently shift your perspective toward what still remains, and even what could still grow. Every morning, you can ask yourself a simple question: what's one thing I can look forward to today? It doesn't have to be big. It could be the smell of coffee, a phone call, a favorite show, a moment in the garden. That question helps you look ahead instead of behind. It sets your mind toward the light. You've lived a full life, with joys, losses, growth, and strength. Living alone doesn't mean life is paused. It means you have a new kind of freedom, one where you get to shape your days on your own terms. And when you fill those days with movement, curiosity, laughter, kindness, and meaningful rhythm, what you're really doing is building a joyful, rich life, one moment at a time. Thank you for being here, for spending this time with me. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. What small rituals or joys have brought you peace while living alone? Let's build a community where we can lift each other up, even from a distance. And if you found this helpful, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe for more content made just for you. Here's to discovering happiness not in spite of being alone, but because of what you learn, feel, and create within that beautiful space.